If China fails to intervene in North Korea, US will take action, says Antony Blinken. This is your favorite half Chinese. And who does Antony Blinken think that he is? Antony Blinken isn't even the president of the United States, let alone the president of China. So since when can a Secretary of State of the United States tell China what to do? Now, first of all, this is to camouflage their real intention, as we will see very soon, because what they say is if China will not intervene in North Korea, that they will bolster up the weaponizing in the region, and not only of their own defense, but also that of Japan and South Korea. And we can drop the word defense and just change it with offense, because that's what they're doing, which they will do and are in the process of doing for a very long time, regardless North Korea. So it's just another excuse to deceive their citizens into agreeing to have their tax-paying money spent not on them, but on a handful of people from the military complex. And by doing that, increasing the chances of a new war and creating more poverty and bad infrastructure and lesser chances in the United States for its citizens itself. But then they also say it's not because of China, it's because of North Korea. No, it's all because of China. Don't they want to contain China?
We need to continue to give the Taiwanese what they need to contain China.
What they want is actually to have China alienate itself from its neighbors, which are Russia and North Korea. They want China to destroy their relationship with Russia, so Russia will be weakened and NATO can get into Russia. So NATO can put its armies at the border with China in Russia after they installed a puppet regime there. They want China to give up North Korea so they can get into North Korea. Install a puppet regime so they can put their military on the border of Korea and China. And then guess who's next? Yes, that would be China, who at that point has alienated all its neighbors if they would have agreed with the United States and be their friend. Now this is very important to understand, that if China is doing as the US tells them to do and be their good friend, that eventually would destroy China. In other words, what Kissinger said, being an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but being a friend is fatal. So in case of that event, nobody will or can help them if they would do what the United States tells them to do. And that is the grand scheme of it all. Now, to keep shipping a lot of weapons over there and military and nuclear submarines, they need an excuse. And that excuse in this case is North Korea. They want China to denuclearize North Korea as if North Korea is a part of China. Problem is, and they know it is, that China has a non-intervention law. That means they are not allowing themselves to intervene in the internal affairs of another country. Something the West actually can learn from. So they already know the answer of China. We can't, and it is literally impossible because of their laws and their policies. That is why Antony Blinken said if you won't or if you can't, to have that part covered. So they told China if they can't or won't do what the United States orders them to do, like a dog being ordered by its boss, then the United States is going to have to continue to take steps that aren't directed at China. But China probably won't like, because it goes to strengthening and shoring up not only their own offensive capabilities, but also the offensive capabilities of South Korea and Japan. Now they say defenses, but we all know it is offenses. And deepening the work that all three of us are doing together. That they mean the United States, Korea, and Japan, and possibly the Philippines also. And this clearly shows that they are trying to destabilize the region. If they were sincere, they would be denuclearize the region themselves by pulling out their nuclear submarines at the border of North Korea. They could also denuclearize the Chinese island that is still being occupied by Japan, namely Okinawa, which has nuclear weapons pointed at every major Chinese city without an insurance on it. But instead they are sending more nuclear submarines to North Korea Peninsula to not only threaten North Korea and provoking North Korea, but also to threaten and provoke China. And this is how the United States operates, constantly creating problems in the region and then trying to pull China into that problem. This is how they constantly are trying to pull China into wars that China doesn't want to be in, because China is a peaceful nation and doesn't like war. It likes businesses. And war is bad for business. War is bad for their business. The United States government is trying to sell to their own citizens that North Korea is a threat, while the only threat in the region is the United States, because it's the United States who is the only country in the world that ever used a nuclear bomb twice. And believe it or not, it was exactly in the region. The United States is the only country that in the world that used a nuclear bomb unprovoked, as Japan already lost the war and was retreating. It was a message sent to the rest of the world by the United States. Look, this is what we will do to you if you will not listen to us and take our orders like a little dog. That was the message mainly sent to China and Russia. So do we need to fear North Korea or the United States when it comes to nuclear warfare? The United States also threatened China and North Korea with nuking them before. North Korea or China never made a threat like that and never dropped a nuclear bomb. But the one who makes those threats and who have dropped 2 of those bombs wants to sell to you that you have to be afraid of North Korea. Let's also not forget the fact that the United States is also responsible for destroying the Marshall Islands with atomic bombs. If you want to know more about that, I highly advise you to watch The Coming War on China, a John Pilgrim documentary. It's on YouTube. It is a devastating story of what the United States did to innocent people who were not at war with them at all, but were living a peaceful life, and then were used as an experiment for the United States atomic bombs. A story that has not been told enough. So what they really want is that China alienates itself from its neighbors and weakens its own position, and also weakening its neighbors so they can be overtaken by the United States and have a puppet regime installed to get more military presence on the borders with China, and then eventually they will take China. So we should ask ourselves, is it even reasonable to ask China that? Do you think that China is a fool? Well, a simple baby can think of this. Anyway, let me know what you think. I would like to tell the United States and all Americans right now, China is not your servant. China is not Europe. China is not Japan. China is not South Korea. China is not the Philippines. And China is not Australia. China is one of the few sovereign nations left in the world. China doesn't take orders from the United States or any Western nation at all. China makes decisions for itself. And isn't it the West that always says that China shouldn't interfere in other countries' internal affairs? So why should they interfere in North Korea's internal affairs on behest of the United States of America? And the West should also think, if they tell China to interfere in North Korea or other countries' internal affairs, maybe one day they feel the need to interfere in the Western countries' internal affairs. So maybe this is something for you to think about. Do we really want this? Anyway, drop a like and follow if you have not yet. And let me know what you think of all this in the comment section. But please keep it respectful. And as always, have a beautiful day. And I'll see you in the next video.